If all is well, the world's largest single train, 650,000 barrel per day capacity oil refinery, the Dangote Refinery here would have reached its peak production as of now, and Nigeria's fuel quagmires would have considerably actually eased off. Commissioned officially on the 22nd of May 2023, 7 days to the end of former President Muhammadu Buhari's regime, the $20 billion treatment facility has suddenly become trapped in what I will call the Nigerian factor. It was this factor that forced Dangote to spend double the worth of the refinery in its construction during the Jonathan and Buhari administration. Dangote, on his own part, enjoyed a free ride of support towards actualizing this project, which will be a more major step towards liberating Nigerians from fuel importation. On Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue, we take a look at these Nigerian factors, which are oftentimes sectional, sectarian, and corrupt factors, which have raised to emasculate any major move to develop Nigeria. I have with me Pelumi Awe on the show. You're welcome to the show, Pelumi.
Glad to be here again.
And I want to believe that you will have express knowledge concerning the Dangote Refinery and also these Nigerian factors that have actually impeded its development.
Sure.
Join us in the next phase of the show, but before you do that, you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media platforms. Welcome back to the show. Pelumi, this project majorly was set up to guarantee liberation of Nigeria's dependency on importation of fuel. Could you elaborate on the Dangote Refinery and also what it would have actually stood out for to take care of importing fuel as an oil-producing nation?
Well, these are interesting times. Well, I would say, first of all, we have been on the round of having to pay money to subsidize petrol. So the idea of subsidy is that a producer has produced something and the government says, let's take a portion of the entire cost so that the other guys can pay the rest. And usually, when we export our crude oil, but by the way, bear in mind that we have about not less than 3 refineries that are not working at the moment. Now, when we export our crude oil, what happens is that by the time they are bringing it in their different batches, in their different forms, in terms of petrol, in terms of gas and all of that, what happens is that the government tends to speak with the marketers and bring down the price to say, how much do you want to sell this per liter? And then the guys tell the government says, okay, we're going to pay this percent of the entire cost per liter. So what you're buying is not actually, the amount you pay for petrol is not actually the amount that you should pay. You should even pay more than that. Now, when we got to know that Dangote was building his refinery, by the way, we know for sure that this refinery took 10 years. And at the time Dangote got his license, over 20 companies bidded for that. Over 20 companies bidded for that and were given the go-ahead to set up their refineries in Nigeria. Now, when Dangote set out to make this even happen and was commissioned last year in the month of May 2023, there was, for me, I had this expectation that once the refinery comes into full operation, many things will change. As an economist, you know that refinery itself will bring about jobs for not less than 100,000 people. That's in itself. Because that would also impact on the people who are going to be intermediaries between the refinery and the persons who are going to, and the company themselves. So you're going to have more persons employed as drivers, because it means that we don't really need to use our pipes to send petrol anymore. It's going to reduce oil theft, because the reason you have oil vandalism is because you have the path to which the oil will go through. Some people go midway to break that pipe and then get petrol for themselves. So that would reduce in many ways, meaning that we're going to have more people who are going to be secured in their jobs. We're going to have more of those resources in our country. And then you bring about national development in its core. Looking at what that refinery was designed for, like you mentioned during your introduction, how that is a 650,000 barrels per day thing set up. And it's pretty much the largest in Africa and pretty much the largest in the world. And imagine that happening, to get that in Nigeria. That's a thing of pride for us. But it feels at the moment that the authorities...
It's a thing of pride for us. Now, in recent reports now, it's been a case of this noble gesture by Dangote to be thwarted by this oil cabal, let me put it that way. That's why I mentioned the Nigerian factor. How well will Dangote survive this whole feat now, judging from what you've just said?
Well, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. If you watch this video before this time and watch this video, you know that his countenance has changed. Some people said he has even reduced his weight, right? Because it's what discussing. He spent nothing less than $19 billion to set up that system you have there. It's in some countries, in fact, where we know that for countries like Gabon are already requesting for him to come. We are open to you to come. And Dangote has done quite a lot in our country. In fact, he is one, if not the largest employer of labor in Nigeria today. If not the largest employer of labor in Nigeria today. So, given the fact that we have some politicians, some cabals trying to subtle his attempt at making sure that people with things to work in this country, it will take, in my own opinion, I think the president of Nigeria has to make some critical decisions at this time. Identify the cabals and tell them that they will be exposed if they don't give up. We have been on this for over 20 years. And so some compromise has to be made. Some conversations need to be had. We need to have this conversation. And something that is even spoiling, you know, we know that protests, some people are clamoring for protests happening in the month of August. Nigerians need to stand, and this is very, very true. This is about my future, about the future of my son, my daughter, and all. We need to stand behind Dangote. We need to stand behind Dangote at this critical point, because once that system gets into full operation, like I said already, nothing less than 100,000 people will get jobs. There will be, and whatever affects the price of fuel is translated to the cost of everything you buy. Whatever affects, so imagine if he starts refining crude oil and we have petrol in our country, what happens afterwards is that you have it sold on a lower amount, and then you are buying rice. The last somebody went to price yam. You know, one of my mentors went to price yam yesterday, and was told that I don't know how big the yam. He said the yam was about 5K or 7,000. I think he told me about something you priced about 7K, 8K. Thank God for our bookies selling yam on our street with pepper. So the idea is the president has to stand up at this time to make things happen for Dangote.
Okay, now the president now currently doubles as the Minister of Petroleum Resources. Do you feel or think maybe he might have this muscle or strong teeth enough to bite this cabal?
Well, we have seen the president in recent times make some tough decisions. I think he's a man who is not afraid of anything. I think he's made some calls that not too many courageous people will make. I'll just give it an instance. When President Jonathan was on board as the president of Nigeria, it happened so much that he wanted to remove this fuel subsidy, and then President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, at the time, President Buhari and some other people, Pastor Tunde Bakare, different persons stood up to say, no, we don't want it, take it back. And after so much pressure, he had to sit back and say, no problem, I'm going to do my term, leave this place, and then you all begin to feel the pain. And now, but when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board and said, see, this thing has to go for real, he took it out. There were complaints and all of that, he took it out. Then, but there are reports that the government is still paying it, but not making it so public, because that is also a strategy in governance. Now, again, as well, he also made sure that he also cooperated with the CBN governor when he decided to ensure that the exchange rate market is done on a willing seller, willing buyer basis, and then he stood behind him, and we're seeing that in action. So I really do not think it's a case of the president being afraid. I think he just has to put his feet on the ground to say, we want this country to progress. We don't care who gets hurt. We want this country to progress, and that we must do.
Okay, from reports now, the Dangote Refinery is to hit 85% capacity. But there have been investigations on fuel imports, which, of course, you're quite conversant with that. It hasn't actually met the standard of parts per million concerning the fuel products. Now, further stating that the gas oil proceeded by the refinery is between 650 to 1,200 parts per million. This is the exact amount. Now, we'll say now with the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, which has actually disqualified the Dangote's petroleum product, we will say that there are some dissatisfied interests here that will not want to actually make the Dangote refinery achieve its feat at the end of the day.
Well, I think I like, so something I like about capitalism, a society that embraces capitalism like you have in the UK, is that private individuals are given the right to express themselves and defend their cause. Dangote is a businessman. He's been in the business for many years. In fact, there was a speech I did one time where I spoke about the fact, where my research before the speech I did, my research, I realized that even when he was in primary school, he was selling sweets. He's been in business for a long time. I think he'll be 17 about 3 years from now. So the point is, this man has been around for a long time. And for him to have set up a company, a refinery of spent about $19 billion, meant that he must have gotten quality things there. I saw when they were trying to show us around the place, even the media room, solid place, where they monitor, solid place. So he wouldn't have set up such an establishment and just do it just for doing sake. Now, the idea of quality, in fact, from the point where you begin to talk down on your entrepreneurs, you have lost at the country. From the point where you begin to talk down on people who are making impact, the world is watching. How many times have you seen an American president, American minister in America come out to talk down on Zuckerberg or say Facebook is rubbish? Even the fact that you have that Elon Musk is partly South African, partly American, how many times have you seen people come out to speak against him? So the fact that has to be dealt with, where we talk down on people trying to make things work in our country.
So let me get you straight now. It's a case of a preacher not being respected in his own hometown.
Absolutely. Also that, it's also amazing that the person who said is also from the north. And so it's not even a tribal thing this time. It's a Nigerian, I think you mentioned Nigerian factor thing. It's not a tribal thing, because the man who said that the refinery, the products there, he said they are substandard, they are not up to what it is that is being imported into the country. Now, just to give you some facts, when there was an investigation done with that regard, where they had to test the sulfur content in whatever is being produced at Dangote, the petrol crude at Dangote, and it was realized. After this, it was realized that Dangote Refinery's product is more quality than what they've been importing all the while. And to tell you that in fact, there were about 2 tests done, and they came out the same way.
It now follows up with the next question I want to ask. Now, with these test results, what is the investigative panel now doing to conduct, I would say, forensic reports concerning these substandard products? Because the likes of Ezekwesili has also demanded that the audit report should actually be brought up. But yet still, there are still some mixed reactions. Is it a case of trust issues here?
Well, I think the first of the investigation done, the result was made public. It was made public and it was circulated online as to what it was. But again, more investigation has to be done. Now, the idea of having too much sulfur content in any, whatever is being produced, is that so it helps to reduce emission. Okay, it also ensures that the engine can last longer. That's the idea of sulfur testing. And it was realized that Dangote Refinery, the produce from that refinery, has little percentage of sulfur in it, meaning that anyone who gets that on board will be able to ensure that the engines work well, there'll be less emission. And also that statement, again, I want to just brush this on that, is that Dangote is not just supplying to Nigeria, supplying to the world, it's supplying to Africa, supplying to African nations, supplying to the world. And so when that statement was made, it was a right of Dangote to come out to say, see, don't spoil my business. If Nigeria will not appreciate it.
Probably it's not just a dent, but it's also indicting on the business.
Absolutely. It's going to spoil everything. You just started operating, and then you're announcing that the products there are substandard. How will you even say that? Because this is what happens. So there are two things actually. When you have a refinery in your country, like I mentioned already, in all of that in one package, you're going to have more jobs. You're going to pay for less amount. You're going to pay less to get the petrol. The price of things are going to go down. That's one. But 3 things actually. Number 2, there's security for you. Imagine during COVID, imagine you had Dangote Refinery operating at the time. Things would not be as expensive as it turned out to be. But 3 is when he sells out of the country. When he sells out of the country and it's about to bring money in, you're going to get more. He's going to charge them more to pay. He's going to charge people outside the country to pay more. So you're making money. Why then are you trying to stop him from doing what is beneficial,
I won't say
not on
they're
the
trying to
short,
stop
medium, or
it,
long,
I
yeah,
won't
but
say
the
they're
long
trying to stop
term.
it, but
Yeah.
they're also trying to scuttle the plans. Yeah, scuttle would be the right word to use because the intention is legitimate, but the Nigerian factor is setting in to spoil the efforts in which it's making. Now, you made mention of countries outside which will be beneficial. Now, reports also has that Dangote Refinery will be in talks with Libya to secure oil. Initially, it was securing oil from Brazil and the US. Also, the Gabonese president has also invited him over for investment talks. Now, I mentioned earlier by making reference to this biblical statement, a preacher not being respected in his own hometown. What will Nigeria stand to lose if these two things I've just mentioned are executed?
Well, first of all, I think I think NNPC has to be. They need to be on audit of everyone there, of the system, of how things will run there. Because we also have reports from Malta as well that some things are happening in Malta, and then realized that what the report I read that the money spent to get crude or so from Malta was a lot of money, over trillions of naira. So when Dangote chooses to go out of Nigeria to begin to get crude, what will happen is that, first of all, he's going to sell to you most likely on a higher amount than you are buying at the moment because he brought it into the country. So he's going to pay for, it's going to be what we call cost push inflation in economics, where it is the cost of it. So the producer transfers the cost of producing the good to the consumers. And that in itself defeats the joy that we had when it was about to split up. So there is nothing to be excited about really anymore because we are still paying the amount we were paying before the refinery got into operation. That's the thing. But two, we're going to have more jobs. We're going to have more people get employed. But again, the countries that is going to be getting crude from can have a bargain with him to say, we want you to employ some of our people in your company. They are Libyans. They are Libyans in Borno today, working in schools. Libyans working in schools in Nigeria today. So imagine that if I want to have a fair deal with you, I will ask you to say, in your company, 10% of the workers there needs to be from Gabon, need to be from here. That will happen. So we stand to lose a lot if he eventually turns to other countries to get crude. We have what we call the IOCs in Nigeria, International Oil Companies in Nigeria, who have, now it's a lot of controversy, a lot of mess there. So they're asking him to go and buy from one of their agents outside the country. You are getting crude from Nigeria. You send it out of Nigeria and ask Dangote to go and buy from the person you are sending to. Why not send it to him directly, have it refined, have it sold within your country? Again, they're also asking him to buy from them like he will buy outside the country. Can you imagine all of this mess happening? So it's a lot of mess. And I think the Minister of State Resources, I think, called all of them into a meeting and then they had a chat and given the picture, you can't really, pictures don't say everything. They smiled, but come on. Anybody can pose a smile, can fake a smile for 2 minutes. So that's not the only thing. So my recommendation, however, is that the president, I have said it before, the president has to come into the picture here to say, who are those causing? They know the guy, they know them. Who are those causing these issues? How can we ensure that marketers who are afraid that this will take over their business? Because it's projected that in 1 year time, Nigeria will not need to import a gallon of petrol. We will not need to import any. So if that is a promise that is giving us even hope and joy, even in this time of hardship, and now you're trying to take it from us, I think the president has to come. Listen, this protest that is about to happen, if the president can make some bold moves, I tell you, it won't last 2 days. It will last 2 days, but because everything we are seeing is on paper. Let's make the move, stand behind the man. And just to say, lastly, that you had Mr. And I like the way capitalists are supporting themselves in Nigeria. It's remarkable to see. We've seen Mr. Akinwumi Adesina speak in this regard to say, see, don't kill your guy. When he says it's a case of when you want to sacrifice for Nigeria and you are the sacrifice. Amazing point. I said, when you want to sacrifice for Nigeria, then you are now the sacrifice. And so, and there's also the fear of being a monopolist. There's no society. One of the powerful things about monopoly is that when a person is fronting things, a person gives room for others to come into the picture. And it's idea, being a monopolist has its own disadvantage in that you want to control things, everything that you're messing now, meaning that if you say you're not going to, because when we rely on you completely, It means that if we don't, the day you say you don't want to sell, nobody's going to use petrol. So that's the issue with being a monopolist. But again, he has proven, and he has proven with cement, proven with sugar, that he's not afraid of sharing gains with somebody who wants to also invest in the business. Yeah. Mr. Femi Otedola as well has spoken in favor of him, has mentioned different things about America and other countries in the world who stood by their monopolist and said, because in every, like we said, about the men who beat America, check them out. Rockefellers, the guys who made things happen there. These guys were monopolists, were capitalists, and they reformed America such that by the time they died, even now, America is still gaining from all they had done before. So the president needs to sit with the guys, have conversations with them, and then make things work out for us here in Nigeria.
Was quite extensive. Well, we've heard it all concerning the whole Dangote Refinery saga, and we await to see recent episodes unfold and hope that Nigeria doesn't throw its own into the trash bin. In the past 1 year, Aliko Dangote, founder of Dangote Group of Companies, is embattled with difficulties from the commercialized state economy, or monopoly, if I may say, which has neglected to supply it with Nigeria's crude. A man who rarely spoke to the media is almost on air as we speak daily, full of lamentations and regrets. He not only said recently he will no longer go into the steel sector as he promised, he has even offered to sell the refinery to the NNPC. We strongly suspect that politics of selfish interest has been stirred up against this particular project, and if care is not taken, we may end up seeing another ugly Ajaokuta steel experience. All eyes are on the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who also doubles as the Minister of Petroleum Resources. The show has been Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. You'll do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media platforms. Thanks for watching.